Camera blowing snot every 30 seconds. Okay,
Am I up?
live on YouTube's. It's loading up now. And we're going to start with our thing. Let me just make sure this is loaded up. Perfect. All right. 5, 4, 3, 2. Welcome to We Could Be Wrong, but who cares? This is our season finale for season number 3. This is Christopher Harris, your voiceover. We have today our two wonderful hosts, Mike and Kevin, and we're going to talk about some things that were said last week. They have a rebuttal, as well as we're going to talk about, I can never pronounce her first name appropriately, so I won't try, but we have Mrs. Jackson, who's up to be the first African-American and Supreme Court Justice. We'll be talking about some of her confirmation hearings, and I'll be playing clips from there. Mike, the floor is yours.
Okay, well, I'm going to start like Renee did last week. And when he got the floor and he said he'd listened to the show, which I did twice actually, and it was really hard to listen to. And the reason it was hard to listen to for me was because I think a lot of the impression that Renee got was very limited. And I want to expound on that impression. And I was hoping he'd be here today and Sensu would be here today to be able to give it more discussion. But anyway, I'm going to start. I'm going to start with where Renee did. You know, Biden has declared war on oil. He wants to stop drilling on federal lands. He wants to stop fracking. He wants to put more regulations on oil, and he wants to jail executives and on. And it started from there. So I did some research. I looked up the wanting to put oil executives in jail. And in New Hampshire, in a town hall meeting on December 30th, 2019, so this was almost a year before the election, basically what Biden said was the executives of the oil companies need to be held liable. And if they don't deliver or follow the rules, we need to put them in jail. He also suggested, the audience at that time applauded, so he was certainly preaching to the choir because it was a town hall meeting for him, for Democrats. He also suggested that there should be financial penalties on those companies and their executives that do not comply with the regulations. So I don't think he randomly wanted to put people in jail. He wanted to put people in jail who were breaking the law. The next thing, I guess this Renee just kept saying Biden hates oil. Biden hates oil, and he doesn't want oil to exist. And he wants us to go green. He wants everybody electric cars, and it's just impractical. And I guess the implication that he's making is that Joe Biden's policies are already impacting oil production, and that's simply not true. To start, and this is for the audience, I want to give just a basic background for the audience, and Kevin or Chris, chime in if you feel like you need to. Biden's goals, let's just clarify what his goals exactly are. Okay, his stated green goal, clean electricity by 2035, zero carbon emissions by 2050. Now, zero carbon emissions would mean no cars, no, as we know them now, because they are carbon emission machines. So that's 28 years from now. Probably the toughest part of his Green Deal was he's saying he wants to affect 50% reduction in greenhouse gas emissions from the 2005 levels, which I don't know what those levels are, but I'm assuming he's saying we need to make a significant impact toward greenhouse gas emissions by the year 2030. Now that seemed to be, does that sound right to everybody?
Well, yeah, I mean, there definitely needs to be maybe a little distinction made. I mean, from, these are definitely, I guess you could say it's Biden's proposals. I mean, these seem to be the goals that were set, and this is more of like a climate change um uh,
Right.
idea, you know what I mean, rather than anti-oil or that sort of a thing.
Correct. Yeah,
And
absolutely.
it's like, I mean, I think, even when Barack Obama was in, they kind of had similar goals for down the road 20 years or whatever, so it's not really specific to Biden. I think that maybe is a pertinent fact, I guess.
Okay, and probably it's been brought back up, and Biden's pushed it because Trump basically rejected the concept and rejected the need for a cleaner environment, and basically said, "Hey, it's not as bad as everybody makes it out to be." So I think that's, you had Obama, then you have Trump, then you have Biden again saying, "Hey, let's go back to that idea of cleaning up the environment." As far as gas emissions, I was curious. I looked it up. In the United States, we get 9% of our energy comes from nuclear power, 10% from coal, which absolutely astounded me because I think coal is by far the dirtiest form of energy of all time. But apparently, a lot of states still depend, like a West Virginia, a Michigan, a Wisconsin. Some of those states still depend very heavily on coal production, which really surprised me. Renewable energy, only 12%, natural gas, 34%, and petroleum, 35%.
Hey,
So I think, go ahead.
I wanted to say before we moved on, because you were saying, like, Trump was saying it's maybe not as much needed. And I know that's definitely part of the argument. I know another giant part of the argument is China and India are not playing by the rules. And there's this argument. It's like, well, America, used coal through the Industrial Revolution to get them up to the next level. And now China and India essentially are saying, well, we need this low cost energy in order to get up to the next level where we're able to start using renewables and that sort of a thing. And because they haven't really signed on to the climate accord, well, I guess the argument is they have signed on to the climate accord, but the climate agreement is very advantageous for China and India, where they're basically allowed to do what they were doing up until 2035, and then they can start, shifting away after that period of time. So I mean,
Okay.
Sure.
Yeah. And I think they both mentioned that. They both mentioned the fact that that, hey, why are we going to, in essence, why are we going to penalize ourselves with higher costs of going green when other countries aren't going to have those same, in a sense, penalties or costs of going green? Does that sound right? Okay.
Yeah, that's
and I thought about that quite a bit, and it's like, okay, so Kevin, we know that burning you and I are neighbors, okay?
right.
And we know that burning our trash in our front yard is bad for the air.
Mm-hmm.
But our neighbors burn their trash in their front yard.
Right.
So we should keep doing it too, right?
No, I agree with you 100% in terms of the logic. It's like, that is definitely the counter argument. It's like America, especially with American exceptionalism and all these other different things. It's like we want to act like we're the leader in all these things. It's like we want to go into Russia and start a war and be the good guy. And it's like, but when it comes down to it and put your money where your mouth is, it's like, oh, well, China's polluting too. I'm with you on that. I'm just trying to kind of frame that argument like in its entirety, I guess, like the all of the opposition to it.
Right. And that's fair. And I think the other component to that as well should be mentioned is I think per capita, United States, our citizens, we use more energy and produce more pollution than any other country in the world as well.
Yeah, it's a little laughable for us to be like, talking about like we're the authority on anti-pollution.
Yeah.
You know.
Because we really, well, and just in the concept of our plastic alone. I mean, look, if you look at the amount of plastic you have in your own home and the amount of plastic you use, I'm a major recycler. I like to recycle. I feel, I didn't 20 years ago. I don't know when I did to a degree, but I'm really into it now as I've gotten older. But I take every piece of plastic that I use and put it in a bag. And it's amazing. It is amazing how much collects in a week. I'd say I typically put it in a bag and have about 2 to 3 pounds of just plastic containers, bags, whatever, a week, just from one person. That's just one person. Imagine, your family.
It adds up.
Cash that in. Yeah, it adds up, and Mike lives like Indian casino, so you know what he does with that money.
Right?
Yeah.
He's got his aluminum cans too, saving up for his poker buy-ins.
You bet.
Exactly.
There you go.
Okay, so I want to talk a little bit about how oil is priced and how it happens. And I want to do a little bit of a history lesson here because I think it's, again, significant for our audience to get a general idea of all the things that are going on in the market that create the price of oil to go up and down.
Yeah, totally.
Between 2011 and 2014, oil averaged about $95 a barrel. And then in 2015 to 2019, it went down to $53 a barrel. Okay.
Do we know what that cause was?
Yeah, I know exactly what that cause was. In 2015, this is the article. It was 2015. It was clear that the oil industry was about to enter a rough seas as OPEC declared its intention to take back the market share from the prolific U.S. shale producers. Basically, what Saudi Arabia did was flood the market with cheap oil. And that's what caused the price to go down almost half in a matter of 6 months. And this is the kind of thing that can happen. In 2020, the pandemic year, the average cost of a barrel of oil went down to $39 a barrel.
Do we know what the like motivation was for Saudi Arabia doing that?
Yeah, there were two motivations. The first motivation was to, like I said, it's intended to take back the market share from the prolific U.S. shale producers. So what the United States have been ramping up? Yeah, the United States have been ramping up its production and ramping it up and ramping it up
of shale of natural gas, and they were trying to
oil shale. They're using that
from what
oil.
Well, from what I understood, shale is like this rock, and it's they that's what I thought they
think it's the fracking. Isn't that the fracking? Right,
but from what I understand, fracking is natural gas extraction.
Oh,
unless I'm
Oil.
mistaken.
It's oil too. It's oil.
Okay, all right. Well, that's news to me.
What is fracking? I don't know.
It's hydraulic fracturing of the ground.
Yeah.
So that they pump this slurry into the ground, and then through like large amounts of pressure, they extract the gas out of the ground somehow. I'm not actually 100% sure how it goes.
And oil. And that's another thing.
Wow.
Renee mentioned, he's going to control fracking. All of fracking currently right now is being done on public lands. So anyway, let me stay back with my
public lands or lands, Mike. I just want to be clear on that. Frack is in private property, not public property, correct?
No, yeah, private property, correct. Okay. Not federal land. Land.
Okay, I just want to make sure.
Okay, in 2020, another thing that happened, and I've mentioned this before when I said Saudi Arabia and Russia got into a pissing contest over oil. I've mentioned this on the air a couple of times. Well, they had a meeting. OPEC wanted their commissioner from Russia to come in, the oil commissioner to come in, and they wanted to lower the production of oil because of the lower demand, right? The COVID, because of the pandemic. Mm-hmm. Russia walked out of the meeting and said, nope, we're not going to do it. Well, Saudi Arabia then turned around and reduced the price of oil by half one more time.
Mm-hmm.
And
I remember that was more recent, like 2018 or 2019 or something.
That was 2020.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
And believe it or not, sorry, Sun Tzu's not here. Believe it or not, Trump went to bat, got all three of actually with Mexico, Saudi Arabia, Russia, and the United States. He's the one that brokered the deal and basically said, hey, the United States and Mexico will reduce our production if you guys reduce your production. And the reason Trump did this is because if they had kept pumping this amount of oil into the market, the oil industry in America would have pretty much been gone. I mean, there'd been so much oil, it would have been worthless for them. So Trump did a good thing there, and basically that kept the supply down, so that and again, that's why when we came out of the pandemic in 21, the supply of oil was still low. The amount of oil we were drilling was still fairly low, and we haven't reached that level. So that's part of the reason why these are the factors, these are the artificial influencers that can come in and completely change the nature of supply and demand on the oil market in the world. And of course, now that there's a war in Ukraine, with everybody saying, hey, we're not going to take Russian oil. Obviously, to us, it's not going to be that big of a deal because it's only 4 to 5% of our oil that we get from Russia. But on the European, they get a very high percentage of their oil and gas from Russia. So it's going to be a real big hit on them in terms of how that all works out. But that's, I'm just trying to give you the idea. These are the forces that create the prices of oil. Not
Joe Biden talking in New Hampshire to like a room full of people that want to hear some environmental, red meat.
Yeah. And then the other thing that's important to recognize is to take a look at the stock market during that time. The same trend, the S&P 500 index. And what that is an index of the top 500 corporations in America. Between 2012 and 21, the average gain on energy stocks was 0.85%. That's less than 1%, while the average gain on other industries was 14.8%. So the oil industry in America has been surviving and doing its thing. But bottom line is they have not been generating profit revenue for their investors. And that's important to remember later on, because yes, they're producing oil. Yes, they're making money, but they're not making enough money to be able to go to their investors to say, hey, if you put money into our corporation, we're gonna promise you a 4 or a 6 or a 7 or an 8% return on your investment. Okay, does that make sense?
Well, it does. But because the share price hasn't risen, that you can raise, without the share price rising, you can raise the dividends and that sort of thing, where it is actually more valuable because it's generating more money, but there's just the share price is just holding steady. Is that accurate?
Yeah, it is accurate. But from what I understand, and I'm turning into a bit of an oil nerd here, it's boom or bust. That's the thing about the oil industry, okay? So when things are going really well, profits are high, they can do what you're saying, they can do a nice dividend. But all of a sudden they do a bust. And one of the things I didn't read here is that on a report I read from January 31, 2022, there were over 600 gas and oil bankruptcies in the United States between 2015 and 2021. So and again, that's when Saudi Arabia came in and screwed the market over. So, it's going to take a certain amount of money for a price of oil for American oil companies to be able to make a pretty decent return on their investment. Okay.
Yeah. I mean, didn't we say, I haven't really looked into a lot of any of this, from this angle of it, but I thought we were under the impression that, oil companies made record profits in 2021.
No, I don't think they did.
I
think they're paying off debt from the boom and bust. That's what happens. In other words, when everything's going well, I guess here I am defending oil companies. They don't mean to be doing it. I'm just trying to present a picture. The idea I'm getting here is that when things are going well, lots of money. When things aren't going well, they need to go out and borrow money to keep things going. Okay. Right. So when the price of oil was cut 50% in 6 months, they're going down, and they went down for a long period of time, and a lot of companies went under. So
I heard one quarter, I think it was ExxonMobil, they generated 42 billion, but the year before they were the quarter before they were negative 32 billion or something like that. Yeah. So there are these giant swings.
That's the boom or bust. Okay, as far as Renee insisting over and over and over again that Biden put severe restrictions on the oil industry. Very important things to recognize. Only 23% of our oil comes from federal lands. 3/4 of our oil, 75%, Renee, when you listen to this, 75% of our oil comes from public lands. And President Biden cannot and does not control the flow of that oil from public lands. He has no impact on that oil. Period.
Yeah, you're talking about private lands.
Oh, he only makes regulation on federal lands.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that's very important to recognize that 75% of our oil comes from from Texas, from New Mexico. Those are the two biggies. Alaska, Oklahoma. Those are the 4 biggest producers.
Right.
And a lot of Alaskan oil comes from federal land because so much of it is preserved land. And that makes sense because it's so pristine in Alaska. Okay, point number 2. Large oil companies stockpile leases in reserve to offset surprises in supply and demand. And they even talked about it themselves, that there were over 9,000 already approved federal leases waiting to be used. And this is what oil companies do. They go out and they stockpile leases so that if something does come along and say, hey, we're going to restrict this, we're going to restrict this, they've already got a lease. They've already got a bunch of leases where they can go and drill oil. According to Reuters, January 12th of 2021, the 7 largest companies that control half of the federal offshore supply, which most of the federal offshore oil is in the Gulf of Mexico, by the way. And they've got supplies or permits that can last them for years. Okay, so this idea that Biden's strict policies have squelched the flow of oil is just not accurate.
Well, he even said it. Oh, he even said it himself. It was like, well, there's these regulations that are causing the price of oil to rise. But then when you really pressed on it, it was like, well, there's uncertainty that there might be regulations in the future and that, they'll go and pump the oil and, things will change down the road. And which is a completely different argument. If you're saying that there is current regulations there that are causing it to be too expensive now, it's a complete different situation of being like a complete different argument than saying we have these leases, we can drill, but the future is just uncertain, which is that's what they're talking about, uncertainty. They're talking about uncertain profit returns. They don't know, what's going to happen there. And it's like,
right.
I mean, oil guys, they're the free market guys. What do they want? Some sort of guarantee by the federal daddy government in some sort of way. It's just, it doesn't add up.
And we do subsidize them, because they're important. Obviously, we have to run on oil. We have to have oil. There's no doubt about that. Okay, 3rd point, oil production is increasing. Journal of Petroleum Technology, January 5, 2022. Really interesting article. This should be pretty quick. U.S. oil went back to work in 2021 is the title of the article. 2020 was a year of turmoil for the upstream industry in the U.S., while 2021 proved to be a year of recovery. In what appears to be a sign of the resiliency of the U.S. oil and gas industry, the number of active rigs as of December was up by 67% year over year. This according to the Baker Hughes rig count, which reported 586 onshore drilling rigs were turning to the right in the U.S. by the end of 2021. The big uptick reflects the deep cuts made in early 2020, when much of the U.S. onshore sector was forced to send rigs back to the yard. In December, as prices fell into negative pricing territory for the first time in history. And again, the price of oil was $39 a barrel at the lowest. In December 2019, just weeks before COVID-19, the U.S. boasted close to 790 active rigs going on at the time. And COVID just blew them out of the water because nobody was driving, nobody was consuming fuel. Despite more activity, other data from the U.S. Energy Information Administration show that U.S. oil output in 2021 was still down about 100,000 barrels per day from 2020 and down more than 1.1 million barrels per day from 2019. So yes, production is still down. As of November, the EIA estimated that total U.S. crude production stood at around 11.7 million barrels a day, forecast to rise to 12.1 million barrels by the end of 2022 and reach record level of oil productions by 2023. So the oil industry is not going to pass on this money that's out there right now with the price of a barrel of oil being over $110 a barrel. Any comments on that?
That
Pretty-
is how the
pretty-
market. That's how the market works. I mean,
Yeah.
it's like when it's 110, it's
Okay, and then the last thing for me, and I'll quit my filibuster. And this is part of, Renee touched on this, and we said, hey, Biden's been on the phone trying to talk to Saudi Arabia and all these countries. Hey, drill, drill, drill. Well, you know what? Big oil is looking for long-term profits, not expansion. I read several articles that talked about this. And basically what they're saying is we need to create more of a return to our investors. Now go back to what I showed you earlier about their performance on Wall Street for that period of time. Yeah, they're making money, but they're not being able to make enough money to give to their investors, at least so they claim. So they don't want any more boom or bust cycles. They want to stabilize the market, keep a steady, even slow growth of oil so that they avoid the boom or bust situations that they've been dealing with in the past. Hey, baby, this is capitalism. This is the way it is. It's a private industry for the most part. They're allowed to do what they want to do. It frustrates the hell out of Biden, but that's the way capitalism is. Okay, so that's a pretty good explanation of really why we were paying so damn much for a barrel of oil and why we're paying so damn much for a gallon of gasoline right now. I think Americans going to. I think our production will continue to go up. They are being able to produce a barrel of oil cheaper today than they could 10 years ago. I read an article where this one guy was saying they could. I think he said he could produce a barrel of oil for like $29, which astounded me. And he said some of that's fracking. He says we do fracking. Fracking is the cheapest way to extract oil. It's the complaint about fracking is it's not good on the environment, but I don't think Biden's going to complain because right now, obviously, he needs oil. And the other thing, I guess, that just kind of drove me nuts about what Renee was saying is Biden hates oil. Biden hates oil. He's trying to shut down the oil industry. If Biden wanted to shut down the oil industry, he'd be shooting himself, not just in the foot, in the leg, in the knee, in the groin, in the heart, in the head, because without energy, without oil, if you reduce the supply of oil, the price is going to go up. How the hell is the Democrats going to get reelected in 2024 if inflation is as it is? Yeah,
the Democrats have more incentive than anyone, at least short term, to get the price of gas under control, before November, for sure. I mean, this idea that they're going to go against their own short-term interests and implement a bunch of green policies right before the election that won't pay off for 10 or 15 years it is something that Democrats would do. I mean, they would completely shoot themselves in the foot there.
Well, they might.
But no, I mean, there's absolutely no way that would happen for sure. I mean, right now we're going to be focused on Ukraine and we're going to be, out with the stars and stripes trying to get some patriotism during a time of war and the scary Russians. And I assume that's what the whole next 6 or 8 months are going to be. I wanted to say, go ahead, Mike.
Yeah, the other thing, and I think, like all politicians, Biden's going to try to blame somebody or something for the inflation and what's going on. And he's, I think he's made some noise toward, the oil executives are being greedy and they need to start producing oil. Well, that's why I included that last section, because the oil executives made it pretty clear. Look, we've taken a hit for quite a while here in terms of raw profit, and we're gonna create a stable market for ourselves. You know what? I don't know whether that's legit or not. Maybe there's somebody out there that's going, man, this guy's full of malarkey. That's just totally crap. The oil industry's been soaking us for 20 years, and that could be. But this is this is the stuff that I was reading in terms of trying to explain why we're in the predicament that we're in. Would it help if Biden quit talking tough about the oil industry? Yeah, probably so. And I think he's going to have to back off on that because, like you said, Kevin, on the short term, the Democrats have a bigger stake than anybody to get the price of gasoline down.
I mean, I don't even know if he has been talking tough. Like, we're talking about getting clips from the campaign trail in 2019, and people are like raising all up in arms. Like, that's like this week's agenda. Like, a year and a half ago, they didn't know any of this stuff about gas. And it was like, for sure, the short term is overweighing the long-term climate change goals. But I mean, like you said, I mean, the oil industries have definitely been coddled for the really subsidized to a point of domination, to the point where, there's everybody has their own car and that sort of a thing. I mean, that was definitely, the same sort of thing with the housing push.
Airlines, auto industry.
Yeah.
Government does this. I mean, they do it because they want to save these industries, because if they went down, the economy would go down.
And it's not all like horrible. A lot of it is needed, but to come out in that environment and pretend like, that it's, the poor industries. I mean, long term, there's these climate change issues, and long term, we need to transition off carbon. And, like you're saying,
right,
the industry's upset long term, and maybe that might be some of the reason that the price is staying stable, because long term it doesn't really have a future if the federal government's saying it's going to be completely phased out in 28 years. But again, there's a lot of these long-term issues that unfortunately have been, this is why we've gotten this far in terms of climate change and everybody's saying how bad it is, because short term seems to constantly trump the long term.
Right. And keep in mind too, what's going on in California, because they also mentioned the price of the tax. We pay 51.1 cents per gallon of tax. I looked that up as well. 59% goes to highway maintenance and public transit, 22% for state agencies, DMV and CHP. And I know Chris is a big fan of the DMV right now. Because anyway, 3% for administration fees, 7.5% for paying down debt related to transportation, and so on. California emission standards. This blows me away. All cars. This is the standard right now. We have the toughest standards in the country. California emission standards. All cars and large trucks sold must average more than 50 miles per gallon by 2025. Wow. Now, what are they going to do to get that one? Trump, by the way, wanted to lower that to 37, and California held the standard at 50. We'll see what happens there. And then Newsom just passed an executive order to end gas car sales by 2035. So that's 13 years. He doesn't want any car in California that uses gas to be sold.
Well, so, you get all these brave politicians, writing executive orders for 8 or 9 years after they leave office and stuff, and let the next guy deal with it.
Yeah, kick the can down the road. So so interesting. I mean, are we going to have cars with 50 miles per gallon? By 2025? That's 3 years from now. My car barely gets 20. I'm driving a Toyota 4Runner, which is it's a midsize. But I wouldn't mind if it got 50 miles a gallon.
The scientists and experts are saying we better try this, or, we're not really going to have a whole lot of options moving forward. I have no idea what if it's feasible or what's going on. But I mean, it's I'd say a good attempt, I guess. We have to at least give it lip service, it seems.
Yeah.
All right, guys. That was awesome. That was a good rebuttal. Unfortunately, I guess the rebuttal was very strong because the other side has nothing to say. So let's move on to
What happened to the other side?
That's a great question. That's a great question.
We scared them off.
They're
So-
such good listeners.
Yeah.
They're awed by what we have to say.
After hearing the counselor from last week, they're like grasshoppers.
Well, Chris, just before we move on, I mean, to be fair, you know, there is this idea that in order to be able to transition from these carbon emitting, processes or machinery to these renewable energy sources that are needed for the environment, is this carbon tax. It's, stop the subsidies, which the price is going to rise, which is going to allow the other renewable sources to be able to compete in the market. And it might be that hard truth that we're all going to have to realize. Like, a lot of people talk about, sometimes you just got to like eat better and all these other different things, and it's, nobody wants to hear it, but it's one of those things of, if that is the case, that is what's going to happen at some point. And there's no point in trying to like blame one person. Whoever is in office is going to have to deal with that.
And if you're paying, if we're all paying $100, I mean, I just paid $98 for my tank of gas. I mean, that's getting up there. I mean, if I had to pay $100 every time, I mean, if I was Chris, I'm retired. I mean, Chris, your position, you're driving, what are you driving? 80 miles a day, 100 miles a day? How many miles are you driving a day?
Around 100 miles a day. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, 100 miles a day. 500. Yeah. Okay. Well, you guys are, five. So you're doing at least 2 full tanks of gas a week, just about,
Right.
because they put on 100 miles just for shopping and this and this and this. So you guys are, $200 a week for gas, $800. You might start thinking about an electric car at some point. Just because it's, hey, man,
the problem is electric cars are not affordable.
Yeah, and that's part of it too. They're going to have to hopefully find a way to bring that down.
Well, no,
because of
I
that
thought there
living
was
wage.
there was a Tesla that was like 35,000 that just came out like a year and a half ago that had like great reviews.
Hell no. I think the cheapest
no.
Tesla you can get is like 50,000, a little over 50,000.
Yeah, maybe I'm mistaken. I thought they were talking about the affordable.
I think they were talking about it.
Yeah, maybe it hasn't came out yet.
For these great patriots that worry about America so much and love America so much, what they need to do is start banding together to start helping our fellow Americans. And we need to stop getting into this idea that people could just, I guess, lift up from their bootstraps or whatever and, make sure everything's all right. It doesn't always work like that. I have yet to be.
It doesn't, Chris. First, we got to work on the immigration problem.
Yeah.
Well, yeah.
According to them.
Well, that's unfortunately that's somewhat true. But what's going to be really unique is that we're I don't even want to go there. That's just going to put you down the platform.
I'm gonna carpool for America.
Yeah. Well, you know what? In the 90s, that was a major push, was to carpool. You had your diamond lanes and everything.
I carpooled some. I did some
Yeah.
because I was driving 28 miles from my house, and there was a guy near me, and we about 2 or 3 times a week we carpool when we could. Not every day, but there was nothing wrong with that. It did save.
Another thing that being here in California, what I've figured out, a lot of people in other states don't realize is how long our state is.
Yeah.
California is a very long state.
Huge,
And
very big,
people-
large.
And people could actually work. They could live in one region of California and work in another region of California. A lot of
Right.
people don't realize that. My
And
100
how-
mile commuting is minor to some other people.
Sure, and I was going to say, fold in the housing crisis and the fact that you're not going to be able to live in a San Francisco unless you are existing. So you're gonna drive. How many? Well, you guys know, Anderson. That's what you do, right? I mean, you work in the city, right? But you don't live in the city. You have to drive, right? So
Yeah. So,
yeah. By the way, Tesla 3 Model 3 is 44,990. So 45,000, the cheapest Tesla.
Yeah. I was just looking at that too, Mike.
Oh,
And
okay,
you get 267 miles per charge.
How does it work? I've seen a
That's pretty
bunch of
good.
those. I've seen a bunch of those Tesla charging centers in the parking lots. Like, do you have to pay for it in some way? Or?
They're free, I believe.
Wow.
You just like ride up to them and plug in your car.
You know, I
No,
think
they're not
could be
free.
wrong, Chris.
They're not.
They're not free.
No,
I would
no,
assume
you gotta.
have to pay something.
Oh yeah, you gotta pay, Chris. You're not free.
How much
Sure,
is
are
a
you
fill
kidding
up?
me? People would plug in their cars and have to get a ride to their to the
I
thing.
always thought they were free because those things, because you know it's hard to drive from San Diego to San Francisco in a Tesla
Right.
because your battery will run out. So I thought they put them everywhere to sort of help that out.
Well,
Yeah,
no,
I'm-
they put them so you can stop and get a quick charge while you're eating lunch. Is what they do. You can get a quick charge, and they know all the places. They have it all mapped out. Okay, the next charging station is 42 miles away, and the next one is 87 miles. It's all charted out.
You know, I see. I don't want people to call me a socialist or a communist when I say something like this, but how much money is enough money to make? You know, like I'm totally into capitalism, right? But after a while, like, what's the point? Like, you have, I mean, I need to make money for my children and my children's children. Some of these guys, I mean, they have like their bloodline might die before they lose their money. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah, for sure.
when's enough? And what's the point? Like, after a while, why don't you take some of
Talking about
those
Tesla? Like, what are you saying?
Yeah, he's just talking about rich. They're super rich, and
super rich in general? After a while, why don't you just cap yourself and make your product cheaper so more people can get them?
Agreed, baby. Agreed.
yeah, it
Think about
is.
that.
It is. Good
Think
old
about
breed.
that. I'm like, you know, someone's worth $236 billion.
Mm-hmm.
Why
Well,
not? Why not cap your salary and say, you know what? Instead of my Tesla being 44,000, I'll make it 20,000, and I'll just use my own paycheck from all these years of being the CEO, founder of whatever. Why not do that? That actually helps more than you doing fucking arts and bullshit. Here, let me go donate all these millions to arts. You know, I'm sorry, but it helps out more. And I'm an artist. You know,
Or spending all that money to go to space.
yeah, fuck space. You know what I mean?
But-
Sorry.
Nah.
Nah?
They're going. No, I guarantee you, they're going into space to make money. They're not going into space for tourism. They're going into space to make money. There's chemicals on the moon, guys. There's rare earth metals on the moon and asteroids. That's why they're going in there. They're just looking ahead.
They need a new frontier.
Yeah.
Exponential growth. A system that needs exponential growth always needs a new frontier.
Absolutely. Yeah. You're
Everybody
going to,
will be forgotten. Everyone will be forgotten. You know, and what I mean by that is all these people, they want to work on their legacy and whatnot. Everyone will be forgotten.
We are all
Chris,
dust. We are all dust in the wind.
Sorry, go ahead, Mike.
yeah, to hitchhike on your idea, where I got about the greed, where I really got cranky was when Pelosi and her husband bought that stock. And again, she and her family are they're probably worth $100 million some dollars. Okay, so during the time she's a very important senator, representing people, why can't she just put her friggin' market aside and say, I'm just going to let it sit there. I'm not going to do any activity on it. And I'm certainly not going to be put myself in a position where people are thinking I'm going to be taking advantage of information that I have that the average person doesn't have to make money on my stocks. Then she goes out and buys a bunch of shitty stocks and gets accused of that. And she doesn't break the law because she did everything. She did exactly what the law required her to do. Within 3 months, she has to announce what she did.
Yeah.
That's the restriction. That's the only restriction we placed on them.
Yeah, it's unbelievable.
Here's the thing.
Yeah.
Somewhere along the line between being a young, idealistic person who wants to help everyone, you somewhat give away a part of your soul. Somewhere along the line, you stop thinking about the other people, and you start thinking about your own self and your own legacy.
And apparently having money is a big part of that in a lot of circles.
When you have money, all of a sudden people think you're powerful.
Yeah.
Think about it. President Trump ran more about his millions and billions than anything else. Look at all this money I got. I'm so smart. There's a bunch of smart people that are as dumb as rocks, and they just have their money from, somewhere, not because of their intelligence.
Yeah, agreed.
For sure.
Yep.
So let me stop, crapping on people, because that's not very nice of me. Let's talk about the confirmation hearing of Judge Jackson, the first African-American woman to be in the Supreme Court justice, where I believe
I think it's pronounced
guaranteed.
Ketanji.
It sounds about right, but you know what? If I pronounce the last name wrong, someone's going to call me racist somewhere. So I'm not going to do,
Okay.
So because we're missing the other side, why don't we play all the things that they'll mention if they were here today? Let us begin.
You serve on the board of a school that teaches kindergartners, 5-year-old children, that they can choose their gender and teaches them about so-called white privilege. You have made clear.
I want to stop right there. Let's talk about white privilege. Is white privilege a real thing? Like, honestly.
Yeah. White guys on the show? Would you like to answer?
Yeah, sure. I mean, all right. So there is white privilege, but not all white people get it. Like, you know what I mean? Like, there's a bunch of
Yeah. No, you're right. You're absolutely right.
There's definitely like a bunch of trailer parks outside of like Detroit or whatever, where there's like a lot of people that are not feeling that privilege or whatever. But there is a system set up where if you work it to your advantage, there is that aspect of it for sure.
You know what? Let me rebut. Let me sort of have let me retort to your comment.
Sure.
So the white privilege and those, trailer park people that are impoverished, that might act the same, dress the same as other urbanized people, they sometimes commit the same crime and somehow seem to walk away alive.
Sure. I mean, there might be
Look at the prison system.
But no, I mean, not just the prison system, but they somehow don't get shot. Somehow.
Okay.
Sure.
Okay.
I could be wrong. I could be
You're
wrong.
talking about you're talking about justice. You switched it to the justice element of white privilege.
As in the white privilege. For those that are like, look, I'm impoverished. I don't have the same, opportunities as other white people, and I'm Caucasian. Where's my white privilege? Well, if you're impoverished and if you do a crime, you're going to most likely get less jail time, and you're going to mostly likely have a higher percentage of being alive.
Yeah. There's definitely that aspect of it, with the like crack epidemic was completely looked at one way, and then when it was white kids and heroin and
opiates
opioids,
like just 2 years ago, it came from oh my god, it's our military, they're addicted to opiates. Oh my god, it's your mom, she's addicted to opiates. Oh my god, it's our sons, where they learn it, where they get it, what's really going on. When it was the black people of the 80s, it was like, well, because there's no fucking dad in the house. Where's their dad? Get up, get a job, stop being lazy. You're bored, clean your room.
Yeah, totally. There's definitely, and that is where we're talking
about
any
anger about this or anything.
Right?
Yeah, I was gonna say. Whew, man. Dang.
Yeah.
Let's continue with Judge Jackson. I'm sorry.
Sure, go ahead.
I believe judges must consider critical race theory when deciding how to sentence criminal defendants.
You know what? I got to stop right there. Of course, Judge Jackson said she does not, she's like, look, what are you talking about? But the truth is, I hope judges consider critical race theory. I really do. I really do. And I'm saying this now because I know I'll never be considered for the Supreme Court, so I can say whatever I want. And I don't have to-
Chris, don't
What?
sell yourself short.
No. I mean, I
No, they have enough black people on the Supreme Court. So knock it
Right.
off, Chris.
yeah.
Come on, let's don't go crazy here.
We don't
Is it
need
your
another, we
personal
don't need another
opinion
black
agenda
guy in
to
there.
incorporate
Good Lord.
race
They got
theory into our legal system?
One portion of the book says babies are taught to be racist or anti-racist. There is no neutrality. Another portion of the book, they recommend the babies confess when being racist.
Has anyone ever made a baby confess to something?
Okay, were these the things
I
that, this is the stuff that was read to her that she had to respond to,
Yes.
right? Okay.
Yes.
All right.
Talking
Wow.
currently is Ted Cruz, one
That
of my
sounded like Cruz. Yeah,
favorite
he's a sweetie.
senators.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm looking for this child's book. I'm
Yeah.
looking for it. I can't find it, but it has to be real because he wouldn't bring it in, right? He wouldn't bring it into the Senate House if it wasn't real, right?
Oh, I'm sure there's books out there.
I'm sure.
Ask
yeah.
mommy. Remember that little cartoon you talked about that your daughter watched about the
Blues Clues.
Yeah, Blue's Clues.
pride? Yeah, there you go. That kind of thing. Yeah, there's going to be stuff like that. I mean, you can look at that and go, what do you want your kid to do? What do you expect? You could do the same thing with that, right?
But that's
So,
ridiculous. No fucking baby's gonna
Yeah.
confess. Oh, sorry. I cuss a lot. I like
Yeah,
to.
but-
It feels good. Okay, go ahead.
But I mean, you can't. I mean, just because those books exist, there's always going to be that element. I feel like they take, and this is, Mike, a thing that you point to a lot of the time. They take the most extreme example and then
Uh-huh.
act like that is.
But this
happening
was
everywhere.
vindictiveness, my friend. They had an agenda.
Oh,
They
sure.
wanted to get back
Sure.
because of the Kavanaugh and the Barnett. Is that her last name?
Yeah, there's that aspect. of it.
There was
Sure.
a vendetta. They
Yeah.
wanted
Okay.
to have their justice. Go on.
She was. Don't you think she was warned? She was probably warned about that.
Of
I would
course, she was
imagine.
fraud. But
Oh,
you know
yeah,
what?
laws are gonna
Day,
be out.
day three, she broke day 3. I mean, that woman looked beat. And I thought we were against, beating women like that. Because
I thought she-
verbally.
I'd heard she held up pretty darn well.
Yeah, and then Brooker did this weird, it looked like the guy was nominated for an Oscar when he started crying. God, that senator gets on my nerves. So
Yeah.
let's continue.
This book that is being taught with kids that babies are racist.
Does United States need more or fewer police? Do you know how long the average inmate convicted for a murder serves in prison in America? Let's turn to rape. Do you know how long the average inmate convicted of rape serves in prison? In 2020, murders increased by the fastest rate ever in the United States. Do you know what percentage of murders are solved in America? Do you know what percentage of sexual assaults and rapes go unsolved in this country? Do you think
Yeah,
we
see-
imprison
yeah.
too many violent criminals or not enough?
Go ahead.
Yeah, see that has nothing. There's no relevant. That's a good way to put all those questions, because that clearly he's got a soapbox and he's just using his soapbox.
One of the biggest soapbox that a lot of conservatives love to use, they go is, the highest crime is in democratical cities
Right.
Yeah.
and states. Did you know that 8 out of the 10 highest states with murder are Republican and voted for Trump? Did you guys know that?
No, I didn't.
No.
Yeah, the states.
Red
What do you?
10. So the 10 states that have the highest murder rates
Okay,
are
as
Republican states.
state, right?
Are
Yeah,
Republican states.
Are they really?
right.
Yeah.
What do you mean Republican states? Like they voted?
That's
for
a great question.
Republican,
Voted for Trump. Yeah.
The
They were-
governor. Okay.
Is Illinois a Republican state?
8 out of the 10 highest ones. Let's
Okay.
hear the clip.
In 2019, there were about 16,000 murders in America. In 2020, there were more than 20,000. It's a 25% increase in 1 year. At the same time, the prison population has decreased by about 14%. It's safe to say there's a surge in crime, especially violent murder across America.
That's so bogus. That is such a bogus statistic.
Republicans love to blame crime on Democrats and liberal policies. But here's the thing. Among the 10 states with the highest murder rates in 2020, 8. Yeah, 8.
And these are the 10 states: New Mexico, okay, Georgia, this is Missouri, Arkansas, Louisiana, Mississippi, Alabama, Tennessee, Kentucky, and South Carolina.
Oh, the South. Oh, the South.
Well, that's what, like murder rate per capita in the state?
Let's
violent crime. Yeah.
Oh, it's violent crime.
Voted for Trump. That's according to a new report by the centrist group Third Way.
Top
Joining
10
me now
states,
is
highest murder
Executive
state
Vice
per
President for
capita.
Policy at Third Way, Jim Kessler. Jim, thank you very much for coming to the Sunday show. The key figure to come out of your red state murder report is what I've just mentioned. 8 of the top 10 murder states voted for Donald Trump. Why was it important to point this out?
And just to note that in Tom Cotton's state of Arkansas, they ranked number 9, twice the murder rate of New York State and California.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. And the reason why I bring this up is because our conservative brethren and sisterin love to put their foot on the necks of their fellow liberals, saying, we're doing this out of tough love because we want our people safe. But it doesn't really matter. People are people. People are going to do horrible, nasty things. And the way we stop it is through education, and is to get them, in my belief, while they're young. Try to show people there's more opportunities, more ways.
Yeah, schools, not prisons, kind of thing, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Shout out to Shawshank Redemption, or the Green Mile. Sorry, the Green Mile. So, but yes, I mean, absolutely, and that's something that, and I'm not talking as a liberal. I'm talking as someone that really is fed up with this red and blue thing. I mean, Republicans and Democrats are like saying in the 80s, Crips and Bloods, you know? And it's just, I'm telling you,
It's definitely very tribal for sure. Yeah.
It's not going to change for a while. It's not, we're in the middle of it. We're not going to change for a while.
Absolutely starting to get violent.
Well,
Like,
I don't know
January
about that.
6th.
You don't know about that.
Well,
Here we go.
I mean,
Yeah.
Here we go. You are a reporter. Your job is just to report a rally that Trump's doing. You walk in with your press badge, and if that badge unfortunately has ABC, CBS, CNN, you better watch your P's and Q's. You say one word, one bad thing, those people will get on you. Tell me I'm lying.
If you have if you have one of those badges, you have security with you because you are a network broadcaster.
But you shouldn't be able to get a security. You shouldn't even have security. You should be free to do what you have to do without being harassed.
Yeah, fair.
Fair, but yeah, I mean,
Well,
I mean,
I like Kevin's answer. Oh, all right.
well, I mean, okay. I mean, you picked kind of an extreme example too. I mean, okay, if you're a Democrat going to a Republican, yeah, let me finish. If you're a Democrat going to a Trump rally, you may be in trouble. Well, no shit, you'd be in trouble whether you're a reporter or not. If I walked in with my, Biden 2024 hat, I don't think I'd be received very well.
Okay. So I think it's safe to say that you're fair-skinned, right, Mike?
Well, yeah.
Okay. Now, let's just say you're on the road, you're driving cross country. You go and you stop in at your local at a dive bar, okay? All you want is a drink just to rest, okay? You walk in.
A dive bar.
You walk in.
I might go to an Applebee's or I don't think I'd go to a dive bar, but okay, whatever.
Okay. How about this? Okay. You go into a diner. Okay.
Yeah, there you go.
You're wearing your Biden 2020 hat. And you forgot to take it off. It's just a hat because the sun was coming down on your face.
Yeah.
Right. You walk in, you sit down, you got your NPR playing on your little hip radio, the kind that cranks, the kind that you crank up.
Yeah, okay. I got one of those, by the way. Yeah.
Oh, okay, exactly. Yeah, I'm glad I said it.
I got one. I can go get it and show it to you if you want.
And then you look around and you see your Pence poster. What are you doing? You're right away taking off that hat, turning off that NPR, right?
Well,
right?
Probably my hat
Okay.
anyway.
Thank you.
If I got my
Exactly.
NPR and my earphones,
So
I'm okay.
that's not that extreme, right? But you better watch where you're at. There's this funny bit from Larry David. He wants people to stop talking to him. So what does he do? He puts on his MAGA hat.
MAGA hat, yeah.
That was a great episode.
Yeah.
I mean, and it's both ways. It's both ways. Right away, if someone walks into Whole Foods with their MAGA hat, people right away think they're stupid. You know what I mean? Just because you have a MAGA hat doesn't mean you're stupid. You're not stupid. You can be super bright.
Right.
It's all gangland, man. I want an episode of gangland. Democrats and Republicans.
Democrats.
Yeah, you know what I mean?
Well, I mean, I go in public places all the time, and I'm sure there's Trumpers and Biden folks as well.
Yeah.
And I don't feel that sense of impending doom like you're trying to describe, Chris. That's why are there situations or places where you would want to go and be careful? Yeah, but
Mike, see, here's the thing. It's true. It's not here now, but it's coming. I mean, listen to last week's show. I mean, you poor guy you were stomped on. Someone asked you a question and as you even opened your mouth to say a word, someone else was screaming out your name. And not in pleasure, by the way. Not in joy.
I must have misunderstood that then. Oh, I thought that was like
But I mean, that's what I'm talking about,
I know what you're talking about, Chris. I'm not naive. I know what you're talking about.
Well,
There's a divide in America, but I don't want to start talking about, oh my God, Civil War is right around the corner, man. Right around the corner. No, I don't buy it.
I'm not necessarily saying that it's Civil War right around the corner, but I'm saying is that people gotta wake up and stop trying to always be right. Not you, Mike, but the two sides. I'm not directly saying don't always try to be right. What I'm saying is that people need to get their head out their ass. A lot of these Democrats and Republicans like to walk around smelling their own farts. You know what I mean? We got to wake up. We got to wake them up, Mike.
Well, I like the approach of your psychologist last week.
Mm-hmm.
When he said, look, if you're going to be in any kind of a relationship, you have to learn how to listen. And I think that's going to go to the core of what's magnifying the differences between the two of us and that's representative of what happened on the show as well. Did Renee want to listen to what anybody had to say? Not particularly, not till the end of the show when he finally ran out of steam and said, oh, how do you feel, Kevin? Oh, Mike, what do you think? But that was, he was already 40 minutes in by that time. So until we go back to that notion that, we need to be able to listen to each other. But at the same time, Chris, in making your point, I'm going to counter my own argument. Our own leaders don't even show us that. The leaders of our country who are supposed to be showing us civility, clearly by what we saw in the process of trying to determine if that poor lady was going to be a good Supreme Court justice.
She is so recognized and has so many achievements.
Right.
And they made her sound like she was all about child pornography and kiddie porn and light on, you know, on crime, and it was bonkers. And then Lindsey Graham, one of my favorites, was like,
Yeah.
"What's your faith? Well, what does your faith matter to you?" And his whole point was to show what happened to Supreme Judge Barnett, you know. And it's like, why are you using her as your pawn? Don't do that. Do that shit on the floor, you know. Do it on the floor. Say, hey guys, this has become too much. This is bullshit. You know what I mean? Because that woman didn't deserve to be their pawn. I would be pissed. This is why I would never get through the confirmation.
And that's what they wanted. That's what they wanted, Chris. They wanted her to get pissed and lose her cool, and she didn't.
No.
That's where she won. She won the day because she didn't get pissed. She didn't lose her
Well, what's
composure.
funny is that Kavanaugh got pissed, and they're, oh, of course I'll be pissed. But if it was a black woman, that's your average black woman, you know, attitude, no, clap, snap. And that's another thing, you know, like it's so silly and dumb. And we talk about, you know, the conservatives talk about the liberals being snowflakes, but I always see conservatives crying. You know, Trump always cried, oh, look, they cheated me. Oh, just send me money so I can fix it. Oh, I'll be fixed soon. Just send me more money. Or, you know, oh, look what they did to our pick. But it all started with McConnell stopping Obama from putting in he's the attorney general right now. He's the current attorney general.
Right.
It all started there. That's where this game started. Because it made no sense why they stopped Obama, but they had Trump push in Barnett.
Merrick Garland.
Thank you, sir. I wish I could see your pretty face. It's all dark.
Yeah.
You know? I mean, this is the season finale. I wanted to end it with a bang. And I wanted to say, ladies and gentlemen of the audience, I wanted to say you need to wake up. You need to see who you are, what you're doing, how you think. The whole point is for us to talk to each other. And we're like, I get emails, either I'm too liberal or I am only giving a platform to the radical conservatives. I'm doing neither. I'm just trying to hear the other side. And the truth is, it's okay to hear the other side. The fact is, compromising ain't losing. Taking a step back is not losing. Taking a step back and listening is actually achieving.
We haven't even heard any radical conservatives. They just like criticize Biden, which you would assume like any level conservative would do. I haven't heard any like crazy conservative, like, you know, very conservative things. Personally.
Thank you for sticking up for me there, Kevin.
Sure.
He did, right? He's like, he's not doing that. But the thing is,
an audience out there look like this might be Kevin's last show.
It's funny because Kevin, it's all black. It's just black. It's just a black.
He didn't.
I'm doing this show from a well.
A coal mine.
Right.
Yeah, thinking about cold and energy. What happened, Mike?
I was just going to go back to what I think the person was talking was Hawley from Missouri, I believe. And he's got an audience, you know, like Marjorie Taylor Greene. They have an audience. And that makes your point, Chris, that that they have an audience, that they can be extreme, they can be rude, they can be vulgar and do things and get away with it. And it's acceptable that they can do that. But what he was saying about the numbers, you know, the 16,000 people were killed in America and it went to 20,000 and 14% of the prison population in 2020, and 14% of the prison population was reduced. And therefore it had to be because of that. That reminds me of a really good phrase I heard years ago. Statistics don't lie, but liars use statistics. And that's a great example there, because the murder rate went up in 2020 because of COVID, because of the isolation, because of depression, and on and on and on. And the prison population was reduced 14% because they wanted to get non-violent offenders out of prison so that they wouldn't die in prison from COVID. So he didn't quite mention that fact when he looked at the statistics that he's talking about, because they represent more the trend than the fact that by letting people out, by letting non-violent offenders out, that the murder rate went up. So I don't know, but I'm sure everybody patted him on the back and said, "Wee, you did a great job there, man. Good job."
Well, I think one of the most telling signs was when Ted Cruz was really drilling Judge Brown, and then he was caught by a journalist who took a photo of his phone, and he was trending his name to see if he got any buzz.
Oh,
Because he wanted it all to be a buzz.
oh, wow.
Buzz, buzz, buzz. Because one day I'm going to run for president because I'm, Ted Cruz. It's I want to know when they stop caring about the people and cared more about themselves. That's a question that I challenge any senator who would dare listen to this show, or congresswoman or man. When did you stop caring for the people and started caring more about yourself? And that goes to Booker, who's a Democrat. By the way, him crying and doing all that shit, it ruined it for me. What?
Why are you hating on Cory Booker?
Because he was crying and it just looked stupid to me. It looked like a dumb act.
As a black person, it embarrassed you that a black man was doing that?
No. I do
don't-
not consider myself black, Hispanic. I consider myself American.
Okay. All right.
I didn't see it. I didn't see him.
All right.
cry.
All right.
I saw him,
Kunta, whatever you say.
I saw him in an interview, I guess, like a week or two ago. He was making
No, it was stupid. I felt he made an ass of himself. Like, okay, dude, you can listen. I cry a lot. I movies make me cry. Okay. Oh, is that Pepper? Movies make me cry.
That's Nelly. That's Nelly.
That's Nelly. Okay. Now, listen, I've talked at times. I think I've gotten emotional on the show. I don't really know, to be honest. But there's a difference when you like really mean something. You're like, you know what? Seeing you up here. I see my mom. You compose yourself. This guy was balling, man. It's like, God damn, dude. Like, talking about, like, I'm just waiting for a whole, show. Mama. I'm just waiting for the whole thing, the whole, how you do? I mean, it was just ridiculous. It was silly. He looked like a clown. And I hated it.
Well, he's probably still broken up off of the breakup with him and Rosario Dawson. Yeah.
Well, I can see why she broke up with him. She probably wants a man. Shit. That's really masculine toxicity there. Okay, it's just a joke. Okay,
we're gonna get emails on that one. Oh boy.
I mean, geez, I'm just being real, man. I'm just being real, and
who would dare email and complain about that?
Somebody. There's always somebody.
I don't know. Who was it? A person who feels like they're not man enough in their own insecurity. This is just, I mean, come on. But seriously, I just, there's a couple of things bothered me too. One, that we're sending, I don't know how many million to Ukraine, and we're receiving how many million refugees. I mean,
not million.
No, money wise. Money wise.
Gotcha.
And then we're only getting 100,000. The 100,000 is cool. Bringing those people here are cool. I'm all down for that. But it bothered me
that's tough.
Yeah. Shoot. I mean, we
got to do our share. I mean,
look,
other countries are stepping up, so we got to do our share.
America is losing their white people. I mean, you need a good influx of blonde-haired, blue eyes in this country. I mean,
we're below zero birth rate. So our entire growth rate of population is immigration right now.
Yeah, that's
been that way. It's been that way for like 4 or 5 years, and that's part of the fear I think some conservatives have, that America's changing, and my God, what are we going to do? And it's
but they don't have that fear when it's all those Ukrainians or Europeans, though.
I don't know. We'll see. That's interesting. Good point. Interesting.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
go back to the day. They were, paranoid when the Italians came, paranoid when the Irish came, and they were white. They were paranoid. And in the community of Fresno, Germans from Russia came in the early 1900s, and they lived across the tracks. They lived in a certain part
we
of
could
town.
go to the Dust Bowl, right?
Right.
Where
Right.
the big influence of the big migration of the Dust Bowl came in here, and
The Okies, right.
yeah,
Right.
I mean, geez,
Absolutely.
but during that time, there was my drinking fountain and your drinking fountain. You know what I mean? So they weren't that discriminatory, right?
No.
No.
Well, just in terms of they literally had to live in a certain part of town, and they were looked down upon. Went to school, they had to learn English right away, and on same things that affected other people, other immigrants. We act like, and sometimes I get cranky with immigrants when they come in and they go, well, you don't understand what we're going through, and it's like, stand in line, dude. You're about the sixth group that's done that, so stand in line. It's just part of I'm sorry, it's not fair. It makes it difficult. It makes it harder, but it's part of the process of assimilating into a country.
Oh, I thought Mike was going to say you're killing the white race. That's why.
No. It doesn't bother, immigrants don't bother me at all. Not in the least. I think you were being serious earlier. We need to take care of our immigration problem. I do too. We definitely need to get it under control. It's got to be controlled.
Yeah.
So
all those Canadians, they just cross our borders, man.
Yeah.
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 Thank you. Oh, go ahead.
I would just one last thing. Does anybody read the Sunday comics?
No, Mike.
Oh man.
Who gets the
I
paper
feel like-
still?
Yeah. I guess that's
question,
it, isn't it? I guess that. Okay, audience. That tells you how old I am, doesn't it? I get a newspaper. Anyway,
Right.
Doonesbury. This is really I thought a really cute. He and a buddy are sitting. Trump and a buddy are sitting in a golf a locker room after the round, and the guy says, "Hey, boss, have you figured out a workaround to the 22nd Amendment?" And Trump says, "Well, what are you talking about?" And he goes, "The 22nd Amendment says no one can be elected president more than twice, which means that to run again, you'd have to admit that you lost in 20. What? Trump says, "That's insane. It's in the Constitution." What? Well, my Congress will repeal that. 22 amendments are way too many anyway. It's oppressive.
Oh, Mike, you're gonna bail on your joke mid punchline. He said,
What are you laughing about?
Because you bailed on your joke mid your punchline. Like,
What did I bail on?
Oh, I thought you bailed on it because you're like, well, anyway.
By the way, Mike will be performing at the Improv.
I'm sorry, I read it badly, but the guy's going.
No
there's
one's
actually
sorry as Renee when he read his joke badly.
Yeah.
Renee
But
Renee read his joke so badly, John had to quit.
Yeah. Yeah. That's why I quit.
It's true.
Yeah. But I think you got it, Anderson. You laughed at the right place. I mean, that Trump is going, wait, I'd have to say that I lost the election to get reelected again.
Yeah.
It's kinda-
So
that's kind of cool. I like that.
I'm gonna end with a nonpartisan joke. Here we go. It's playing right now.
A guy walks up to a bar and asks the bartender, "How much for a beer?" The bartender says, "It's free." The guy is really happy and says, "Okay, how much for a sirloin, some mashed potatoes, a salad, and an entire cheesecake for dessert?" The bartender says, $1. The guy says, "Okay, I'll take it all," and the bartender gives him his food. After he's done eating, he says, "Wow, this place is amazing. I'd like to meet the owner." The bartender says, "Oh, he's upstairs in the office with my wife." The guy gets confused and says, "What's he doing upstairs in the office with your wife?" The bartender smiles and says, "The same thing I'm doing to his business."
And that's it, guys. Bye-bye.
Yeah.
For our season finale of We could be wrong, but who cares? Season 3. We'll see you for season 4. Good night, everyone. We're still on